Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Reezy Scorecard. As usual, today we're looking at one of the most controversial fights of all time, Pernell Whitaker versus Julio César Chávez. I'm in downtown San Antonio right now, best city in the world. So I'm actually just a skip and a hop from the Alamo Dome where that fight happened. San Antonio is a city with a rich tradition of boxing history. So it's no mistake to me in my mind that one of the most notable, one of the most controversial fights in boxing history happened here in San Antonio. So with that said, the judges scored this fight a draw. Judge Mickey Van and Judge Franz Marti both scored the bout 115. Each of them had two 10-10 rounds, which at the highest level of championship boxing, especially here in North America, you don't see a lot of 10-10 rounds. So that's pretty interesting. And Judge Jack Woodruff scored the bout 115-113 for Whitaker, which even that I think is a pretty bad scorecard. I think that's a bad scorecard. My score was 11-1, 119-109 for Whitaker. Some people would say that's probably a little wide. I didn't give Chavez the first two rounds. Most people, it looks like, give Chavez the first two rounds on their cards. And I'll explain that a little more when I jump into it round by round. But the only round I scored for Chavez was the 12th. And even the 12th, I really only scored it for Chavez because of Whitaker's inactivity and Whitaker holding on the inside. I note in my notes that there's not a single moment, there's not a single punch of Chavez's that at the end in my round recaps that I write about, because he really does nothing of note in this fight. He throws a few good straight right hands, but there's not one moment where you say, whoa, there's not one significant punch that you remember. Most of these I've done so far, Ali Norton, Jones versus Tarver, Leonard versus Hagler. There's different things where you could say, oh, Tarver straight left, or Jones is leaping right hook, or Ali's jab, whatever it is, that there's a notable thing you could look at from each fighter and say they did this well in each fight. I don't think there's a single thing that Julio César Chávez did well in this fight. Like I said, the round I gave to Chavez was because of Whitaker's inactivity more than anything Chavez did well. So I comprehensively gave this one to Whitaker. I would note that the scorecards are pretty bad. I also think the fight is a little over-reffed. If you watch the first few rounds, Joe Cortez is kind of warning Whitaker for hitting on the brake in moments where probably a lot of refs would have let them fight out of it a little more. So there's definitely something. There's just something odd about this fight. Obviously, the fans are all against Whitaker here in San Antonio, proud of Mexican-American heritage and tradition. So they're all rooting for Julio César Chávez. It's just Whitaker had a lot against him in this fight, and I think he puts in one of the best performances of his career. So let's get into it round by round. Round one, I scored for Whitaker. Most people have this for Chavez. I do note in here extremely close. I have two rounds I list as extremely close, the first and the ninth. So it's a complete feeling out round. This is your typical championship, high profile feeling out round. Whitaker circling, Chavez looking for what he's going to do. He's looking for a home for his straight right hand. Chavez is throwing, but when he does, he's missing badly. And this is a theme throughout the fight. He's missing everything by a mile. So I think a lot of people give this round to Chavez just on pure aggression, but I don't like to do that because I think Whitaker is still the ring general, so to speak. And I think this is a theme for every round this fight. Whitaker is controlling the pace. Whitaker is controlling the tempo. I think Whitaker's jab is the key to this fight. Whitaker's jab is doing everything. Whitaker's throwing the jab. Then when Chavez tries to get on the inside, Whitaker's using angles to just circle around him every time. So even in this round where not much happens, I give it to Whitaker extremely close. So he opens up leading on my scorecard 10-9. I give round two to Whitaker as well, and I don't put extremely close on this one. I just put close. And this is another one that some people give to Chavez, but Whitaker's working behind the jab, and it's beautiful. And he's not peppering him like he will be later in the fight where the jab's landing every time. But Whitaker's jab is keeping Chavez from doing anything. And he's starting to sneak the left hook into the head behind it. And he lands it a couple times this round. He's controlling the distance, and he's making Chavez miss. So Chavez for rounds 1 and 2, and these will probably be the only rounds of the fight where this is true, he's still throwing more, I don't feel comfortable calling him the aggressor. He is moving towards Whitaker in that sense. So I guess he's the aggressor. But Whitaker is making a miss. There's nothing of note, even in these 2 rounds that people like to give Chavez, where he really lands anything that gets Whitaker's attention. There's a few oohs and ahs from the crowd, which of course is a highly partisan Chavez crowd. Nothing from these eyes that tell me that he deserved either of those rounds. So after 2, I have it 2-0, 20-18 for Whitaker. And then in round 3, I give Whitaker the round clear. And this is one of the rounds where Judge Franz Marti scores at 10-10. I don't know how you get 10-10 here. This isn't a 10-10 round to me. Whitaker snapping Chavez's head back with the jab. And of course, he's starting to mix in those left hooks to the body. They're not bothering Chavez, but they're hard. They're scoring shots. And this is just another round where you see Chavez has no answer for Whitaker's movement. He's missing everything he throws. Every time he tries to get Whitaker into the corner, and if you're watching it on YouTube, it'll be that top left corner he's trying to push him into. Whitaker's just circling around him and moving it right back to the side of the ring where he wants it. Chavez doesn't do anything in this round. So it's a clear 10-9 Whitaker round. Round 4, I put as close but clear for Whitaker. And it's just a story of the fight. Whitaker's jab is controlling the fight. Chavez can't get through it. Chavez has no answer for it. And you'll start to see he starts to run out of energy, because at least in rounds 1, 2, and 3, he's throwing back. I guess when they're on the inside, when they're in the clinch, he's sort of the aggressor. But as he runs out of energy, and I think it starts right here, he's not even throwing when he has Whitaker on the ropes. And when they're on the inside, Whitaker starts winning some of these exchanges because he's sneaking in some left uppercuts, some left hooks. And so you would think Whitaker would be dominating from the outside, Chavez from the inside, but starting really here in round 4, that's not the case, because Chavez isn't really doing anything on the inside. He does land a nice straight right hand to end the round. Chavez lands a nice straight right hand on Whitaker. It evens up the round a little, but in my mind, it's not enough to give the round to him. So after 4, 40-36 Whitaker for me. On the ESPN broadcast I watched it on, I believe Al Bernstein has it 2-2 at this point. Some of the scorecards I looked at, most people I think have it 2-2 or 3-1 for Whitaker. I have it 4-0 for Whitaker. And 5 and 6, rinse and repeat. I have them both 10-9 for Whitaker, close rounds. Chavez has his moments, especially in round 5, throwing with both hands to the body at the beginning of the round. He comes out aggressive. Clearly the corner told him something. Hey, you're blowing this fight. So he comes out aggressive, throwing to the body. But then once the round kind of settles in, Chavez just spends 2 minutes missing shots. And Whitaker's jab is really starting to really snapping Chavez's head back at this point. He's throwing it. Chavez is blinking. He's getting that head snap back. It's a beautiful jab. It's probably one of the best jabs ever in boxing. If you've ever played Fight Night Round 4, you'll know Pernell Whitaker is a favorite character to use, because I mean the southpaw jab, it's just beautiful. And in a game like that where you can employ a little strategy, it's really fun to use. And you could see it's almost Fight Night style in these 2 rounds, how he's snapping Chavez's head back with the jab, just every time, jabbing, moving around, sometimes sneaking in the left. So round 5 for Whitaker, close. Round 6 for Whitaker, close. But this is another one where he's mixing in the straight left hands to the head, and he's mixing in some hooks to the body. So he's starting to throw the combinations. He's constantly touching Chavez, and Chavez is just missing badly. So if they both threw 40 punches this round, which I don't think it's the case, you would think Whitaker landed 25 and Chavez might have landed 5 or 6, because Chavez is missing badly with everything he throws, and Whitaker is just constantly touching him. So after 6, clean sweep, 60-54, Pernell, Sweet Pea, Whitaker. Round 7, a clear Whitaker round. He's mixing in the hooks, he's mixing in the uppercuts, he's landing the jab with surgical precision. And Chavez is landing when he throws in this round, but he's just not throwing enough. When they get close, or the rare moments where Whitaker's on the ropes, Chavez really isn't throwing. Sometimes he's throwing this awkward right hand when Whitaker is bouncing off the ropes. And he does have some more success this round, but really his activity plummets, and that's a theme for the middle of the fight. The activity from Chavez just isn't there. This is another clear Whitaker round. Round 8's the same. And in this one, this is one where you could say Whitaker just kind of beats the shit out of Chavez this round. I mean, he's throwing everything at him. This is one of those things where it goes kind of contrary to the narrative of the fight that, you know, Whitaker boxed from the outside, looked good with the jab. I mean, this round, Whitaker outmuscles Chavez on the inside. He outthrows Chavez on the inside. He's throwing uppercuts. He's throwing hooks. He's snapping Chavez's head back, and he really does it all from the pocket, where you would think Chavez would want to be. He's in the pocket, just landing left hooks and uppercuts. And this round is a domination. It's as clear cut as it comes. Just a clear Sweet Pea round, possibly one of the nicest rounds of his career. It's a case study. Anybody that hasn't seen round 8 of Chavez versus Whitaker, and you want to see like a boxing lesson mixed in with how to effectively fight on the inside, I mean, that's it right there. It's a great round from him. So 2/3 of the fight in, I still have it a clean sweep, 8-0 for Whitaker. And round 9, this is another one that one of the judges, Mickey Van, scored at 10-10. And I kind of empathize with him here. It is an extremely close round. I have it marked on my scorecard, extremely close, because Chavez is finding a home for his right hand early. He's touching Whitaker with the right hand. Whitaker is still controlling the pace. I would still say he's the ring general. He's making Chavez do what he wants him to do. But Chavez is landing that right hand enough to where I thought I was going to give Chavez this round. But then right near the end of the round, Whitaker lands the best punch of the fight, and it's I don't even think he sets it up with the jab. It's just a lead left straight, a lead straight left hand, and he just nails Chavez with it. And you know, Chavez has one of the best chins in boxing. I don't think he was hurt. I think even saying he was stunned might be going too far, but it's clearly the best punch of the fight. He hits Chavez's whole face with it, and that swung the round for me. So I still have it extremely close, but I did give that one 10-9 Whitaker, 9-0 Whitaker going into the 10th round. And the 10th and 11 are mirror images of each other. They're clear Whitaker rounds. In the 10th, Whitaker is just peppering Chavez with the jab. And this is the point where I think you could say peppering with the jab, because he's landing that southpaw right jab every time he throws it at Chavez. And at some points it is fighting. I saw, because he was boom, 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 boom. He's just bouncing it off his head like a speed bag in the 10th round. And Chavez has no answer for it, because when he misses, or when he comes in hunched, because sometimes he's tired, so he's coming in hunched later in the round, and Whitaker's getting so comfortable with the jab that at some points maybe Chavez is expecting the jab, and at that point when Chavez comes in hunch, Whitaker's actually just throwing a hard straight left hand that he's mixing in. So there's a couple of times at the beginning of the round where Chavez follows through on a missed punch and freezes, and Whitaker just nails him with hard straight left hands. Later in the round, he comes in a little hunched because he's tired. Whitaker nails him with straight left hands. So Whitaker's boxing beautifully behind the jab. And then once he has the opportunity to capitalize with that straight left hand, he's just nailing Chavez with it every time. Round 10 is another one where it's just a case study kind of round. Whitaker beats him up. He's not quite beating the hell out of him like he was in round 8, but he's clearly winning this round. Round 11, the same thing, but turned down a little. If you would say round 8 and round 10 are probably Whitaker's best rounds of the fight, you wouldn't say that for round 11 because it's such an uneventful round. Whitaker is just peppering Chavez with the jab, peppering him, beating him to the punch. Sometimes when they get on the inside, Chavez is looking for angles, and Whitaker is throwing this tricky little left uppercut. When the ref, sometimes it's when the referee, Joe Cortez, is trying to break up a clinch. So it's not dirty as much as it is crafty, but it's this tricky, beautiful little left uppercut, and he's hitting Chavez with it. And just before the bell rings to end round 11, he wins they both throw combos, and Whitaker's combo clearly wins the exchange. So it's it's an uneventful round, and Whitaker clearly wins it. But Mickey Van, interestingly enough, and he's one of the judges that had the bout of draw 115, 115. He scores this round 10-10, and it's just not a 10-10 round. It's uneventful at times. Neither guys are doing a lot at times, but everything that does happen, Whitaker is getting the best of. So 10-10 from Mickey Van, I don't really understand that. Round 12, final round of the fight. This is the only round I give to Julio César Chávez, and I really give it to him. He's letting his hands go consistently for the first time in the fight. That's for sure. He's throwing with both hands. He's still throwing the straight right that he's really has been his only punch all night. He's mixing in some left hooks to the body. But really, he wins this round because Whitaker is doing nothing. Whitaker is clearly thinks he has the fight in the bag. He's not fighting hard on the inside where he was beating Chavez to the punch. Now he's just holding. He's holding Chavez's head down a little, getting some warnings from Joe Cortez. Chavez is kind of yapping to Joe Cortez. He doesn't like he's getting held. So Whitaker does almost nothing this round. He's not working on the inside. And so I think it's a close but clear Chavez round. It's the only round of the fight I score for Chavez. Interestingly enough, Judge Franz Martí scores this round 10-10. And if he had scored this 10-9 Chavez like I had, he would have had Chavez winning this fight. And, you know, there's probably something in his head that said, there is no way this guy won this fight. I can't turn in a scorecard for Chavez, because interestingly enough, he did score at 10-10, which made his card a draw. So the judges had it 114, a draw from Mickey Van, 115, a draw from Mickey Van, 115, a draw from Judge Franz Martí. Both of them scoring 2 10-10 rounds, if I'm not mistaken. Then those are really bad scorecards. Those to have the fight even, to have Chavez, I suppose, winning 4 rounds, then having Chavez win 5 rounds. They both had Chavez winning 5 rounds, Whitaker winning 5 rounds, and 2 rounds even. That's giving Whitaker only 5 rounds is uncharitable is not the word. It's heinous. It's bad. I mean, Whitaker clearly won more than 5 rounds here. And that gets to a Jack Woodruff scorecard. He had it 7-5 for Whitaker, which I think even that is a pretty bad scorecard. Now, it's certainly not as bad as only giving Whitaker 5 rounds, but I do think Whitaker clearly won at least 8 or 9 here. I think 7 rounds to Whitaker is that's one I could describe as uncharitable. Like I said, I have it 11-1 for Pernell Whitaker. And basically that comes down to Chavez he lands some single right hand, straight right hands, but he doesn't have a single notable moment in this fight. Like I said, the round I gave to him was round 12, and it was more about Whitaker's lack of activity than it was anything special Chavez did. Whitaker controlled the fight all night. They're fighting exactly the way Whitaker wants to. They're fighting from distance. Whitaker's coming in from the outside, peppering him with the jab. But that doesn't tell the whole story of the fight, because even when they're in the zone that apparently, you would think Julio César would want to be in, the inside, Whitaker is winning 90% of the exchanges on the inside. The left hooks and the left uppercuts he's throwing on the inside are tagging Chavez. They're getting to their destination every time. And if you take out, I would say, the first, the second, and the 12th round, and you're just looking at the 3rd through the 11th, Whitaker probably wins every single exchange on the inside, with maybe some rougher moments in the 9th, but he does everything better than Chavez in this fight. There's not a single thing Chavez does better than Whitaker in this fight. So let's see. He comprehensively won all of the exchanges in 3 through 11. And I would say he comprehensively won all of the exchanges except for in the 12th. I wouldn't call this, some of the other fights, Roy Jones versus Tarver, I called close but clear. Sugar Ray versus Marvin Hagler, I called close but clear. This isn't close but clear. This isn't even really competitive. I mean, this is a schooling. This is a wide decision win. There's a lot of fights that aren't considered controversial that I think are a lot closer than this. I think 117, 111 is fine. That looks like where most people have it. So I think 9-3 is fine. I think 10-2 is fine. That would probably be the first and the 12th, maybe. I'm comfortable with my scorecard 11-1. I think the permissible range here is probably 8-4 Whitaker to 11-1 Whitaker. Anything closer than that, even that 115, 113 from Jack Woodruff, is just way too close for my taste. Whitaker clearly won this fight. He schooled Chavez. He beat him from the outside. He beat him from the inside at his own game. 11-1, 119-109 for Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker is Reezy's scorecard. Thank you all for watching. Please like and subscribe, and tune in next week when we're going to look at both fights between Michael Spinks and Larry Holmes, two highly controversial fights. Looking forward to it.